Good evening. I think we are live now. Welcome, friends of Swarm. My name is Michelle, and I will be your host for tonight. Um, this playlist we've been listening to is just awesome. So I hope we can share that later. Um, so today is a very special day evening for me here in Antwerp because we are releasing the Swarm Alpha client. We will be hearing from the dev team, from a lot of special guests. We have some panels. The program this time is way too big to go over everything like I normally would do with an introduction. So I want to invite everybody to join us also in the Swarm Orange Lounge. This is a Telegram group. And if everything goes well, then our stage manager might be able to show once more um, the link on the screen. Are we watching that? Um, anyway, it will pop up and you have been seeing it for the whole time here. So first off, let me introduce our opening talk. We have a very special guest who is doing this opening talk. It's just awesome to have such a brilliant mind with us. It is no one else than Jordi Bailina, and he asked me to announce him as Jordi the developer, but I really want to add some stuff like what he was doing. He has been the brain behind DAppNode, ident3, the 777. I mean, I can go on for a while, but please, Jordi, could you join us with your webcam and your audio?
Thank you, Michelle.
There you are. Please go ahead. I won't say another word when you're here.
Yeah, well, the idea is just Gregor just asked me to talk a little bit about just some motivational stuff about all the work that we are doing. So yeah, I'm gonna just, of course, everything that I say, I may be right, I may be wrong. Just if you like it, good. If you don't like it, just forget about it. I may be wrong. So just say that before in advance. To start, well, I wanted just to share with you some of the one news that I read yesterday, and was something that GitHub was changing the name master by main, just because all this all this movement that's happening in US and many places in the world about the diversity and acceptance on all that stuff. And it's interesting because the language, of course, the language do not make the things, but when we are talking, there is something that's not it's in the subconscious, it's in your brain that's going hand, and the language is very important for that. So I want to say that I fully support this, but there are other things in the languages that when the computer people in the normal language that we are using, that's that they have this component of racism or this component of things. For example, when we're talking about master slave, but client server, or even, for example, something that just hurts me a lot. That's, for example, white hat and black hat. Why white hats are good and black hat are bad? That's the thing. So I decided that from now on, I'm not a white hat anymore. I'm a black hat, just to accept the integration and the diversity. And I think that's something that we should change a little bit our mind. And said that, and just keeping that in mind, I think it's an interesting thing. I want to just start saying why we are here all together, what we are doing right now. We are building a new world mainly. Right now, we are doing a world where everybody is, has their own sovereign. If you want, we're building a world that's human-centric, where the person, the individual, is the center, and then it goes to the community. And when you go to the community is when you grow on all that stuff. So doing what we are doing at the end, we are doing decentralized applications. What are decentralized applications? Decentralized applications are applications that are just there, that they exist. They don't need maintenance. They exist. People can use it or stop use it when they want, and they're available to the humanity. And that's the cool thing. We are able, for the first time in the history, to build this kind of applications, this kind of decentralized systems. To build these decentralized applications, we have three components that any system have and that are very important. On one side, we have the network. The network, in this case, would be the internet. In the other part, we have the hard disk, the global hard disk. Here is where Swarm, it's the importance of the project, and that's why I think that Swarm is the one of the most important projects and in the decentralized world. And the other, if you want, is the global computer. If you want the blockchains and all that stuff. When you put the processor, when you put the hard disk, and when you put the network, and you join them together, you can start build these applications. These decentralized applications, I would say that are even more than the decentralized applications. These decentralized applications can change the world, can change how the people is organized, can change how the people interact with each other. You can start doing commitments. You can start having jobs other places in the world. You can create companies. You can create companies with other people in the world. So this opens a new way that humans will interact. And we as developers, we are very lucky to live in this moment in the history where we are building this all together. And if there is people that I've been working as a developer for many years, in different companies, in centralized, in just normal software companies, just building, just as a developer, you just write code and do something there. But here we have the opportunity to really build a new world, to really build a new way where the humans will live, where the humans at the end will be more happy at the end. And this is important. And I tell you, it's very lucky to be in this space, and it's so that's important. And because is this so important, I think it's also important that we get the best developers in the world in order to build this system. And who's the best developer? What are the top developers? Well, I'm going to share some, as I told you, I'm going to share some advices, some things that for me makes good developers, or things that I think that the developers are good, and at least is the kind of developers that I want to work with, that they think that can really improve. So I'm going to share some advices, things that works for me. Of course, they may not work for other people. This is just you like it, you take it. If not, just it's okay. But that things that I think are work for me, and I think that for me at least are very important. The first is self-discipline. Just any job is not with humans by default. We are lazy. We like to be in the bed, and it's like the normal way is just lazy. This is bad because we are not more happy just for being lazy. But that's what if you don't do it, if you don't have anything that forces you, that's the natural way. So in some way, you need to force yourself in order to do things, to wake up. And this is about the self-discipline. Here, just having good schedules is important, and mainly it's about forcing yourself. That's about the self-discipline, forcing yourself to do the things. And it's cool because when you do something that you like it, maybe you force yourself in the first minute, but then you can be 2 days that you don't need to force. You are just loving what you are doing. But it's important this first minute, this first thing. This is that's about auto-discipline. The other thing that's for me it's very important here is study a lot, especially in the developers. I would say if you are an engineer, just investing 20% of your time studying would be a good number. But if you are in this space that everything is new, that there is no experts here, so it's like the person that has more time working in this, it has been for less than 5 years or 7 years, and this is not an expert yet. So study is very important. So if you are in this space, maybe studying 50% of your time is not a crazy number. So it's important to study new things, study new ideas, what the people is doing. Of course, selecting what you have to study, that's maybe about another topic, but it's important to spend. If you want to invest, more than spending is investing, in learning, maybe learning a new language, learning a new protocol, learning reading somebody else's code. That's an important thing. The other thing that for me it's important is well, fit good, just things, and keep your body good. It's at the end is you have a brand and you have a brain, and the brain is like you are a sport. This is sports. They care about their body, but you need to keep your brain, and the brain is part of your body. So it's important that you fit here. Well, there is a topic that maybe it's a little bit problematic to talk, but I want to say, especially, for example, I've seen a lot of people in the space, a lot of developers that had a lot of problems with drugs. I would say do not do it unless, of course, if you go to a doctor. If you are doing, at least go to a doctor, and at least you know what you are doing. But I've seen very brilliant people just having bad times and just losing their time and being not a good developer anymore because they are just lost in that stuff. So please be aware of the risk and just take care on that. The other thing is find good space to work. Buy the best computer you have. Buy the best screen you have. It's cheap, it's an investment. And best developers should have the best computers, should have the best environments. You should be in a place where you are comfortable to work. Just find the place. Okay, so it should not be expensive to find that, and that's really important. I've seen people just developing in a very bad environments, and well, it's quite difficult if you don't feel good, if you don't feel comfortable where you are. The other thing that I've seen is about communication. It's a word that's in Spanish that we call it rat laps. Being a rat lap is not, in general, is not a good thing. You need to connect with the people. You need to teach and you need to teach and learn. You need to explain what you are doing. You need to share the things. Do not be afraid to express your feelings, just what's going on, maybe, or don't be afraid to just to be bad or to be good. Be humble, and that's fine. It's like we are developers. We are just do not, the people that do not talk, people that they stay for themselves, they are in general, they are very difficult to fit in the team. So it's important to express and all that. And this goes together, for example, in a kind of a image that we have with the developers. We have this freaky guy, it's very strange, with a very strange haircut, and a person that's not accessible, that's working on that. Seriously, I don't want this kind of developers. Developer is a human science. It's not so it's something that as I told you, we are building these tools for the people. We want the people to use them. We want to make people happy, and that means that we need to connect with the people. We need to understand with the people. We need to understand what are their worries. We need to understand the world we live, and this is not. You will not do that in a closed in a lab. So I understand that sometimes you need to isolate yourself in order to develop, and maybe you can spend maybe 1 week, 1 month, even 1 year just doing something. But once you finish, just share, just fun, friends, go to the world, go to the conferences, go to the people, try to explain what you are doing to people that do not talk your language. And that's important, because if not, you will get very stuck on yourself. And just to finish, just the last thing that I think is the most important thing, just have fun, enjoy. Developing is cool, really cool thing. You have the freedom to do whatever you want, to program the way you want. And if you don't enjoy your work, you are not going to be a developer. So that's mainly what I wanted to explain. That's all be black hacks. So that's it.
Jordi, thank you so much for the talk. I've been smiling during the whole talk. I love it how you focus on the human being instead of the technology. You would expect that you would do an opening talk about technology and the latest state of the art, blah, 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 right? And you just tell people that they should be healthy. And I couldn't agree more. I am a little bit afraid that you announced on this live stream that you will be a black hat from now on, but I think I understand the symbolism in that. Jordi, thank you so much for being here. and I hope to see you very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So, dear friends of Swarm, I hope you liked that talk as much as I did. I can't stop smiling, actually. Next up is another person that always makes me smile very much. It is Gregor. Gregor, are you here? Gregor, you can please. Yes, there you are. Gregor, awesome to have you here. So Gregor is gonna talk about where do we go from here, or where are we? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gregor.
First, start with where are we? Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Here, sharing my screen. You should see my screen now. So thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Jordi, for a very inspiring talk. I also always enjoy listening to you. And yeah, I share the sentiment. I think we are now in the best time where we create something new and important. And in this creation process, also when we create unstoppable apps, the question also arises, how do we create an unstoppable organization? Moreover, in our previous blog posts and updates, we mentioned the Swarm is in the process of graduation from Ethereum Foundation. And this update is meant to shed more light into it. So in terms of the graduation, think of it like ENS, which also successfully spinned out of Ethereum Foundation when it got matured enough. And how is this going? So last year, an executive team was formed, tasked with basically charting out the strategy, how Swarm will make this transition from essentially a dev team into a fully fledged organization. Swarm Association was established this year in Switzerland in Neuchâtel, and currently also Swarm Foundation registration is in process. Establishing a foundation in Switzerland is a bit of a lengthy process. So once this is done, the Swarm Association will transfer everything to the foundation. Besides this, we are thinking a lot about also how to give the best possible conditions for an ecosystem to emerge, and on the other side, how to also help with advice to the enterprises how to use Swarm in their environment. So how did we do until now? Swarm has all the strategies plans towards 1.0 set, and in the gray you see already the milestones that we reached this year, starting with launching the MVP at Ethereum EthCC in Paris. Last month we launched Book of Swarm, which consolidates research and basically enables also other Swarm client developers to build their own client. Today, it's an exciting day with the release of the Swarm, of the B client, the alpha version. And we have then relatively few milestones to achieve, big ones and important ones, but Swarm is getting ready to be used. So how do we approach this? Now, this is an important thing. In essence, we are organized like a swarm. So this is our way how we walk our talk in building free and open source public good. It's also, as Jordi mentioned, in building a new world, we also need to re-evaluate the old structures and leave that baggage behind us if it doesn't serve us. And for example, Swarm doesn't have a CEO because it's not a business. We are not a profit-oriented project. In this regard, it's a lot more important to think about how can collaboration be fruitful, how can we facilitate that collaboration, how Swarm can be bigger in terms of merging with the environment. So we are organized on the so-called holarchic principles, which is basically a fancy word for Swarm. This enables flat hierarchy, and also among others, it's very DAO friendly. So in this sense, the long-term vision is basically for the devs among you, imagine like the whole organization is a bunch of microservices. And according to the needs that emerge, this organization basically adapts and also scales. And this led also that Swarm is growing, and here I'm focusing on the non-dev side, also with people that, yeah, expand the dev team into an organization. We created the ops team, taking day-to-day care of day-to-day operations and the financial matters. The comms team, which takes care of communicating with you, with our ecosystem, and the prod team that actually emerged out of production team, that emerged out of the comms team. And these guys together are basically to thank for this event today. We have HR team in the making, and we see over the summer that there will be an ecosystem and partnership team emerge. And this all kind of reflects this dynamic nature of Swarm. In a sense, also even today's event, later when we see the ecosystem panel or with the release, these are all autonomous units within the event itself. So we're growing, and this is the team today. And personally, I'm very excited to see how good we vibe together and excited on the future. And with this, back to you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gregor. And I would say that you are probably the greatest autonomous entity of us all. That was a very interesting way to look at things. We will be hearing more from you by the end of this event. So stay tuned for more of Gregor. Thank you, Gregor. I want to remind everybody that we have a launch kind of thing going on Telegram. So if you scan this QR code with your digital mobile device, you will get access to a Telegram chat group where a lot of fans and friends are gathering to say silly things about this event and also just share interesting things. Thank you so much for sharing that feed. Next up, I have the absolute honor to again be talking to Victor Tron. Victor just finished, or is it ever finished, but just wrote the Book of Swarm and released this a couple of months ago. Victor, can you join me if you fancy a chat?
I've joined. Thank you.
Yes, there you are. Awesome. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Awesome. So Victor, I'm gonna jump right in because we only have like 20 minutes, I think, and we try to keep a tight schedule here. So it's like asking me to keep a tight schedule now. First of all, let's dive right in. People have been talking to me and everybody in this Ethereum and decentralized space about the Holy Trinity, which is like terribly, almost like a Catholic thing for me to hear. And I always wonder what this has to do with computer science. So could you elaborate on that? And could you explain what people like Vitalik mean by that if they speak about it?
Yeah, first the Holy Trinity is an interesting concept. Let's take two aspects of it, like one's the substantial, one's the kind of style aspect. The more important one is the substantial aspect. The Holy Trinity stands for the three components that make up a computer, and taking that analogy and apply it to the word computer. What is the word computer? Well, when Bitcoin came and first showed that a decentralized consensus is possible to implement with the blockchain, then Bitcoin as the first application was able to do only like financial transactions, basically changing rows in an Excel spreadsheet, if you like. So the complexity of the operations were kind of limited, as in the macro language. And then came the genius of Vitalik, who realized that a virtual machine can equally be kind of given in this framework, and therefore you can have a distributed consensus over global computation. So it can be the basis of a word computer CPU. This analogy came into being. And then soon they realized, what do we want the word computer for? I mean, word computer should be the infrastructure for the World Wide Web, after all. So it's finally possible to create the Web3 vision of the new really centralized web, as in the old days, but with much better technology, building on Web 2.0. And so what ingredients do you need for the world computer to function? Well, you have the public blockchain, which is the CPU at the central processing unit of secure computation unit. And all you need is on top of that is scalable data storage and retrieval mechanism, which is the original concept of Swarm. And thirdly, a messaging component, which is responsible for real-time data transfer between agents and nodes. And Swarm kind of took this ambition and the realization of this world computer very seriously, and we have it on our banner to provide the missing ingredients that finally complete this vision and bring the world computer to life. However, we like these analogies, and the Holy Trinity, of course, on the other side was conceived of at the time when Ethereum was fed with strange letters, and when dApps was first fed with the Icelandic sounds letter and things like that. That was fashionable too, because of the kind of unexpected kind of fandom surrounding, like very heightened enthusiasm surrounding the blockchain and especially the Turing complete blockchain, what it makes possible. People kind of resorted to religious kind of parlance as a joke, and this is mainly a gimmick made by Vitalik, which is on a par with a lot of other things that Swarm inherited, among others the BZZ name for the protocol, as well as.
Yes. So do I hear correctly that, or do I understand correctly that there's like three parts of the world computer? Ethereum is one, it was supposed to be three, and now Swarm is taking over not only the second part, storage, but also the messaging part?
Yes, indeed. We kind of providing the other layers that would complete the world computer, and the first component to that is the hard disk of the world computer. Of course, this hard disk is a distributed system. We make fun of this kind of connotation with using the word disk, which is an acronym for distributed immutable storage of chunks. The dev guys will talk about it more. This is important because this is the focus of this alpha release as well. This is the ground layer of that basically a network that organizes a storage solution in a decentralized and private way. And yes, the ambition is to provide all the basic primitives that you need as Lego pieces to build up in a modular way more and more complex applications that fully utilize the decentralized paradigm. So instead of having the server client infrastructure and deployment on your paid hosted service, the applications in a decentralized world will be automatically scalable, right away uploaded on Swarm. They incentivize, they secured, and they decentralized.
Awesome. So I remember from science fiction films in the 80s that the internet was kind of supposed to be like this giant organism that came to life and was like a world computer. So as far as I always learned, the internet is decentralized. So why are you guys, let's say, always talking about, yeah, we need more decentralization? Because isn't the internet like inherently decentralized?
Well, this is a complex interaction of various economic factors, of course. So let's go back to the times of Web 1, when you basically you owned a hosting service, your own server, and you're blogging along happily. What happened if your blog suddenly became very popular? Well, maybe you became slashdotted, like listed on an important and popular site. Then all the requests came in, and basically you DDoSed your own server because it was not meant to be serving such bandwidth, and therefore as a result your costs skyrocketed, or in the worst case even the server crashed under the load and basically never managed to serve anyone who really needed to consume what you wanted. So, but at least at that time you owned your data to a certain extent. And now, like in the Web 2 land, all kinds of companies came to the rescue to serve this need, to provide infrastructure which is automatically scalable, so kind of comfortably hosting these publication needs and serve these publication needs. And unfortunately, it led to platformization and a lot of fragmentation in the domain. And unluckily, the fact that these platforms provided the storage and organization of your personal data, they became kind of data silos with a very strong lock-in problem, in the sense that switching cost from between within these platforms is kind of prohibitively high at the moment. And let alone even for applications that don't have the network effect. Like obviously it's difficult to leave Facebook because all your friends need to leave Facebook, but it's also difficult to leave the Google Docs and the rest. So the idea is to have a very different paradigm in which your data stays in your own hands. Basically, you're sovereign owner of your data, and instead applications kind of need to have permissions to access your data and organize it in a way that you want, like basically a Twitter scheme to your own updates, or a threaded view of a newsgroup and forum. It's kind of one of the very, very high level components that don't necessarily readapt the same infrastructure, usually faulty and insecure. And very
yeah, it's like going on the infrastructure, because I really like the vision. I think everybody can agree on that. But like, can you explain like in a sort of like real world example? Like I remember when I first had to explain email to my mom, I used like the concept of, you know, like the real postal service and how that would change electronically. So how could you explain Swarm with like real world metaphors?
I mean, the core of Swarm is really, it's a bit like base infrastructure, base level infrastructure. I would compare it to introducing running water, or pipelines for running water, in a way, which is kind of similar in a way to what the way we talked about the blockchain, because it's by its very nature, because it's providing decentralized consensus, which is the core need for kind of single source of truth, which is needed in a lot of fields. It applies and effectively changing practices, or it has the promise of changing practices in all verticals. And that's why on the one hand it's a bit dangerous proposition, because it sounds like the witch doctor who can cure you of every illness that you have. But on the other hand, it's also difficult to attach one particular killer app to it, because you kind of clearly see that it will benefit everything. And yeah, so it's a good question to ask, like what applications we expect to be emerging and in what pace. And in that regard, there's lots of ideas and lots of ways we can facilitate that it's done in the most efficient way.
So if we were talking earlier about the Holy Trinity, then I must say you probably wrote the Bible on decentralized storage with the Book of Swarm. But how do we go from this grand vision? I would advise everybody who has some free time to dive into the Book of Swarm, by the way, because it's a really interesting read. But how are we going from that grand vision to, I guess, a very concrete, app? I mean, I should run something on my computer, right?
Very good question. So I consolidated the past 4 or 5 years of the team's research into this book called Book of Swarm. Of course, please don't take it seriously. I mean, it's obvious some of these references, but it's used as a gimmick as usual. It's not meant to be in any sense the final word about this. However, it does propose as specific parts as actually implementation specs. Or specs for implementations across various clients. So it means to consolidate the important ingredients and components of the system in a very rigorous manner, grouping them under protocols, data structures, and algorithms, strategies, and APIs. So these are defined in the book. Not all of them are worked out as yet. The book has basically the extended motivation that we talked about, including the data silos and data captive kind of corporate internet we live in at the moment, as well as kind of a more positive outlook on fair data economy and how Swarm and similar systems can facilitate that, and also how important the possibly coming new paradigm of synergy of these software and infrastructure services is on businesses, how it lowers the barrier of entry and obviates the need to put up upfront capital to invest in infrastructure. And the core of that is Swarm's proposition to basically offload most of the infrastructure and base technological cost to the users, exactly to the extent that that scaling the user base necessitates. And this also brings me back to your question about how the ecosystem might arrange, how we arrive at that. I mean, an important takeaway from the 4 years of development of Swarm was that we finally understood what we were building. It was not easy. It was a lot of iterations, a lot of experiments, which you can see with the current Swarm client on the testnet. Is an extremely feature-rich client. Has a few unknown bugs, which exactly proves the point of why we needed to cut it, and together, kind of in synchronicity with the book, we kind of understood like what really the basic ingredients are, what are the primitives that in a way perfect that so you can't get rid of anything, and that's what builds it up. And these are the primitives of the chunk storage that are realized and implemented in B. And how you get from that? So basically, you can have various layers on top of that, which realize higher level functionality. So I'll tell you an example. With the chunk layer, you can have chunk storage primitives and pause and higher level functionalities, for example, to upload a directory and represent it somehow in Swarm in a way that when you download it, you can reproduce that directory, like such a simple case. So basically, like that would be the basis of the Dropbox client. And this brings us to the last thought, is that I envision that most of the applications that directly use some of these core features, so basically file organizers, publishing platforms, Dropbox-like things, or the already existing FairDrop software that you're gonna see in a minute in the demo. These are kind of direct uses of the core protocol offerings, and on top of that, I imagine that there's going to be an ecosystem and kind of an ecosystem of various libraries and tooling initiatives, which ultimately bring about, as I said, like modularly built up more complex libraries. For example, Facebook as a library or Forum as a library, and these can all interact because of the shared API and the shared incentive system. They can work very well together. So my vision is that it's going to be extremely easy to actually finally bring about those wishes that were around at the time the Ethereum launched, that we're going to have our decentralized Airbnbs, our decentralized Ubers and Twitters and etc.
Okay, Victor, I'm afraid that we have to round it up because both the stage manager and the event manager are like in the backstage, like doing this, like you have to round it up now. So I guess this is all we have time for, but before you go, I hate to put you here on the spot. I know we're in a live stream, but still I'm gonna do it. But when do I have my Alpha B or my Swarm in my computer? Because I've been dying to use it.
or whatever I say, don't believe me. I defer this question to my colleagues who come in the later sessions, but I definitely promise something in the mainnet this year.
Something on mainnet this year. Yes, the papers can now start writing their headlines for tomorrow. Thank you so much, Victor. We will be hearing from you more in the AMA. As always, thank you so much for this conversation, and I hope to see you soon and in real life and later in the AMA. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. So, as always, you can disable your camera, Victor. Thank you. Because after this grand vision, we go to the very practical implementation of Swarm. I'm very pleased to announce our next speaker, which is actually an MC that has prepared a segment with the dev team. It's product owner Rinke. Rinke, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes, Michel, I hear you.
Yes. Awesome. Look at you. So yeah, Rinke, I will just hand it over to you and just, like ring me back or like just give me a call when you want to hand it back to me, because I know you have some exciting stuff to share with us.
Yes, indeed. Well, thanks, Michel. Yes, so hi, everybody. My name is Rinke Hendriksen, and I'm the current PO, the product owner of Swarm. I'm in this position right now for a couple of months, but before this I was both researcher and developer, mainly on the incentives area for Swarm. So as a PO, I'm tasked to basically be the oil around the team to glue and to make sure that everything runs smoothly and that all the developers are all going in the same direction and that we have our backlog ready, that we know all our roadmap, and that we can work towards the release of Swarm 1.0, about which Victor just very briefly spoke. So of course, like I'm doing this not on my own, and actually I'm not doing a lot of talks this session because I'm going to do it together with some of the team members, not everybody, because we don't have time for that. But some of the team members will be starring in this show. But before we go there, I'm going to share my screen because I'm having a couple of announcements to make. I don't know if you can see this. I should. No? All right, then I'll do it without the screen share because I cannot go to here. Yeah, so first of all, so the first announcement, maybe the most important one, today we released the first release of B. And B is that what is going to be implemented on the individual nodes of the computers of everybody here who is in this conversation, and the B nodes will be forming the Swarm network. Secondly, we are having a roadmap, which I was planning to show to you guys right now, but I'll ask the communications team to send a picture of the roadmap to everybody. And lastly, I'm having an announcement that I, as a PO, would really like to be in touch with everybody who is either already working on top of Swarm or who is planning to build an application on top of Swarm. And for this, we have a forum which is hosted on Swarm itself, of course, and I'm turning this over to you. So if you are having plans or if you're already building on Swarm, please fill in this form. And then we continue to the next part of the show, because here we're having with me Janos. Janos, do you hear me?
Yes. All
right. So Janos, you are the dev lead of the Swarm team, and in this position, I'm very fortunate to work together with you. But let me first ask the question: how are you feeling today?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty excited. We are announcing the first release that we did today about the project we were working on for the past 6 months. And yeah, that's cool. Let's see how it works.
All right. Well, that's amazing. So I just said that we are releasing the B, and before you, like the B, of course, what Victor already said, includes the disk, the distributed immutable store of chunks. Can you tell me, please, what is this? What is the disk?
Yeah, I would say that the disk is the base layer of the Swarm network. So it is the basis for all the high-level features that we plan to implement. But it stands for distributed storage or distributed immutable storage of chunks. And as we are building the distributed network, we are storing on that network chunks that can be retrieved by any node on this network. So basically, we are connecting nodes. We are syncing chunks, distributing them when new chunks come and when new nodes also join the network. And we are retrieving chunks when someone wants to download them, for example, to download a file. Yeah, chunks are here atomic units of data.
All right. And well, then I think a very important question, right? Because before we had Swarm and now we are releasing B. Can you please tell me what is the difference between those two things?
Yeah, first, Swarm is a much older project, so probably you all know about the Swarm project, and we developed that for 4 years and gathered a lot of knowledge from that experience, and experimented a lot with the different approaches on how to build not just the distributed storage, but communication layer and everything, every features that now exist in Swarm. And B is much younger project that is basically unknown, and that we made a release today, the first alpha release. And we took a bold step to implement the second version of the B client as the linear and more modular version of the B client, so that it goes along with all the things, all the visionary things, and also technical things in the Book of Swarm, and that we can build a project, not just one, but multiple projects around it for people to contribute, to build on their own on top of it, to implement their ideas that we maybe did not think of, and so on. So the main goal is also collaboration, so that that we can build a large ecosystem of free network.
Right, and here you're, I think, mainly referring to the fact that the B on itself we are attempting to make it as lean as possible, right? And expose all the lower level APIs such that other devs can interact with those lower level APIs as we are doing, but perhaps they have better ideas than we have.
Yeah. And actually the API is now pretty simple, and this is the basis, and this API will improve, and of course and in terms of performance and so on. This is the alpha release. We will improve on that and add more features, but we will not make it so complex, and we will allow for other components to live on alongside and on top. In more easier.
Amazing, János. Well, thanks for the explanations. Maybe one last question. We are here in a live video streaming service, so do you want to say one last thing to your audience?
Yeah. So this is the this is the undertaking of the whole team. So we all worked on that for the first part of this year since January, and the whole team took a bold step to start a new project after a lot of development and a lot of time and effort that we invested in the first client. So yeah, I would like to thank all of them and for taking that brave step.
Amazing, Janusz. Thanks. And I, of course, share your feelings here. I think it's an amazing step which we have taken, and we are seeing the results today with the release of the B. Okay. Well, of course, the release of software is not just software. Like Jordi Balina already spoke about it. The communication is very important, and part of this communication is the developer documentation. And with the release of B, we are also releasing a new documentation website. And I have the pleasure to invite Tjerd to the screen, and Tjerd has been heading this effort. Tjerd, are you here? Yes, we see you.
Yes, hello, Rinke. Let me share my screen. Just a second. Hello, Swarm users. Can you see my screen? So what you see should be the GitHub repo for the B documentation. My name is Tjerd Tachlin. I have been coordinating the work group for the B documentation. And our two major aims are making sure that the documentation is always up to date with B releases, but also making sure that the documentation is relevant for the users. We believe the documentation is crucial for adoption and would like user feedback. We consider it essential. So I would invite you to participate. Let us know what might be missing considering your use case. You can do that by chatting with us on Mattermost, maybe opening an issue in the repo, or if you feel like it, even adding content yourself and maybe issuing a pull request. So now I will proceed to the render documentation. This is hosted on Swarm, by the way. The address is docs.swarm.it. I will just go through it quickly so that you see what is available. The introduction has some general information with contact information towards the bottom. The installation section tells you how to install the B, as well as how to build it from source. Starting your node has information about configuring your B either from a command line or via a configuration file. The tutorials include uploading and downloading a file either via command line or via the browser, and also how to set up your own private network and adding computers to the private network. The development section has some developer-specific information for getting more information about your nodes. API and debug section contains info on how to use the APIs, as well as links to more detailed API reference documentation. And finally, the architecture section contains the link to the latest book of Swarm, which is, of course, the go-to reference for everything related to the architecture and design of Swarm. And that is all from me. Thank you, and let's be in touch.
Well, thanks a lot, Tjerd. And I think right now the time is there to officially launch the B network. And of course, well, the B nodes are intended to work together and collaborate all in a decentralized fashion. We are just, as a Swarm organization, right now going to launch the first B nodes, which will be the start of the B network, which will be around for hopefully a long time to come. Michel, I think you want to announce something.
Yes, well, yes. Thank you, Rinke, for it was going really well. Awesome, awesome segment you did there. Well, announce something. No, you're of course announcing something. I'm just here to guide it in some sort of a way. So yes, dear friends of Swarm, this is like the moment we have all been waiting for, because we're gonna actually release the the bees, as we say. And if everything goes well, now on your screen you can see. Rinke, please take me through this because it's so small on the screen. You know probably by heart what this thing is saying. What is happening here on this
All right.
screenshot?
So our wonderful DevOps engineer Svetomir is sharing here his screen.
Yes, and can I please, if you like every dev working on this thing, please just open up your camera if you like to do this. Get some drinks ready. I know Jordi asked us to cut down on the drugs, but I think one drink is in place to celebrate this launch. Rinke, please go on.
Yeah. All right. So I'm hoping that we get more of the faces of all the team members right now on the screen. But if everything is correct, you also see one screen which looks a bit like the Matrix. And this is the screen of our DevOps engineer, Svetomir. And Svetomir right now is one push of the button away from launching the first B nodes into the network.
Okay.
We already have 10 running, but very soon the network will be expanded with many more nodes. Well, I think there's only one person right here who has the honor to give Svetomir the final cue, and this is Victor.
Victor, yes, please come. Can you please show yourself? Yes, there you are, Victor. So, Victor, if you say the magic words, this thing is going to happen.
So the plan B for the next internet is finally here, as we're releasing the bees to the Ethersphere. So let's cut the ribbons and release the bees.
Release the bees. Oh, look, I can actually see a bee in the console, yeah?
Yes,
so
nice.
Rike, why do we see, is this just a gimmick or is this something, the bee in the
No. It's there. We are. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. It's water, Jordi. It's just water.
It's water too.
Nice, guys. Congratulations.
So if I understand correctly, you see a bee when you is this when you just launch the thing, or is it when someone connects to you, or what is it, Rinke?
Yeah, you see it correctly. So on the left hand, we actually see a B node booting up, and everybody can see this right now. Just go to GitHub, download the repo, clone it, and well, if you start it, you will see this B node appearing. Mm-hmm. And on the right-hand side, you will be able to make such a log as well. But this is basically the accumulated logs of all the nodes which are right now in the network and which are very busy, buzzing, and being bees. And yeah, that's basically what you see.
That's awesome. So I think maybe it's worth announcing, like the quickest way, at least that I can get this running is through my dApp node. So I've seen that the dApp node has released, or at least has published the B package. Rike, can you maybe say something about that?
Well, the dApp node, I think, yeah, I mean, you can.
Did I just say it? I just literally, I just said it, right? So yes, dApp node has released the package. Awesome. Yeah. So Rinke, back to you. I think you weren't done yet, right? Because you have, if I remember correctly, you have an awesome demo still in
yeah. Exactly. There's one very important thing which is missing from this.
Okay, so I'll just ask everybody to just kill their cameras again, because otherwise it's going to be really chaotic. So if you could just disable your camera, and then I'll hand it back to Rinke to continue his segment there. Thank you, Petar, for disabling your cam as well.
Cool. And yeah, I'm really happy that we finally have this moment that the bees are released. So the very last point, of course, which maybe is the most important one, is the actual demo of somebody using this project. And for this, I would like to invite Santiago to the screen, who is a developer with us. Santiago, are you here?
Yes. Hi, Rinke. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well.
Hi.
All right. So over to you to show us what we can do with the
awesome.
B-nodes.
Okay, cool. Well, first of all, thank you for letting me present this, because I think it's really cool. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen. 1 second. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is basically just run the B binary, you can make it from source, or you can actually get it from GitHub releases. In this case, since I have already my code open, I'm just making the binary. And then once I have the binary, I can actually start up my B node. This is going to be an instance I'm going to be running locally on my machine. And as you can see here from the logs, basically I'm going to start a node that has the address 8081 and is basically going to be running on my machine locally. So if I start here, the command line, and I hit enter, you can see the fabulous B ASCII art, which is pretty cool if you ask me. And here you can see it's starting to pop up all the logs. For example, you can see here the P2P address, and this is basically like an ID of the node that's running. And this is what is going to be connected with other nodes. So if I go down to my my Chrome, for example, and I go localhost 6061 topology, you can see all these things in documentation, but it's cool if I show you. You can see it's connecting. We have, for example, here 14 other nodes that are connecting from my node locally to other B nodes, which is pretty cool. So right, if I go to gatewayfswarm.org and I go to upload, and I upload, for example, a picture of a cute dog. I don't know why. I think I like that dog. If I upload it and I wait, I'll get back a hash, right? So this is basically the ID of that file uploaded. And if I put that file, I get it back, right? So the interesting thing is when I actually put it in my terminal, in my local host 8081, this is going to be downloaded into my machine. It's going to be replicated. So there you're going to have the censorship. It's not going to be able to be taken down. So I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, basically there you see the dog again. And this was downloaded in my machine. And you can even see here in the logs, if I scroll down a little bit, you can see it's actually doing quite a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's pulling the chunks basically. So yeah, it's getting everything. And yeah, I can even upload something from my machine. I can go here and I can upload a file and get it back. For example, here I just uploaded something and voila, I have my own gateway running in my local machine. So yeah, if that is really, really cool. So I encourage everyone to start up their nodes and start connecting to the B nodes. Yeah, thank you very much. Back to you, Rinke.
Thank you, Santi. So you just uploaded the gateway via the gateway. Is it true?
Yeah, it's like a recursion, right? Yeah.
Amazing. That's really nicely done. Well, thanks a lot for this demo. And maybe my very last note in this section is that there has gone a lot of work into actually being able to upload and download a file. And while this might look simple, there's a lot of things going on under the background, and you can truly appreciate this. At least I do. Also, well, we are offering right now the APIs to upload and download files. I think the most interesting thing is that we also expose lower level APIs, and this will allow developers to create their own interfaces into B. And we have already seen this with an external group to us, actually doing exactly the same, the file upload and download, but then with the JavaScript library, which I think is amazing. All right, so that was it for my session. Nothing more to say. Thanks a lot for being here, and hope to see you in upcoming talks.
Thank you so much, Rinke. So finally, we have censorship resistant dogs, which is awesome. It was really fun that we do recursive dog uploads. So next up, this topic has gotten a lot of questions in our AMAs everywhere on Twitter and on Reddit. I guess it's best that before we go to AMAs and ask questions about this topic, we actually listen to the guy who knows a lot about it. I would love to invite Danny to talk about the bus token. Danny, if you are here, I hope that you are here and your camera is there. Okay, awesome. I can see you. I can almost hear you.
Hello, hi
Now I
everyone.
can hear you. Awesome, Daniel. How good to have you here. I'll just give the floor to you and your really interesting presentation on the bus token. So go ahead.
Hi everyone. So before I actually start the presentation, I would also like to get a little bit philosophical of what actually we are doing here and why decentralization is interesting and important and the way forward. And for that, I would like to bring up a metaphor that how people do things together. So when we're rowing in a boat alone, you know, the two paddles, the boat, the rudder. So all this kind of is within the sphere of control of one person and we can manage. If we have two people in the boat, then it's a little bit more difficult to coordinate, but we can still make do. But if we have a big rowboat with like 30 people in it, then things start breaking down and it becomes really, really difficult to, you know, just to decide where we're going, how fast we're going, when people are rowing, and so on. And usually the first thing that emerges, the first thing how we start moving is that somebody self-appoints as a coxswain and, you know, starts crying out, row, row, row. And people start obeying and the boat moves forward. And, you know, this person is often celebrated as a visionary, but it's a very fragile way to coordinate because this one person is a single point of failure, both accidental and deliberate. Everybody submits their autonomy to this one person, which means that even with the best intentions, this person cannot take everybody's interests into account, even to the extent possible. This person might, you know, misjudge how fit the people are and either underuse them or overuse them and get them exhausted before we reach the destination. So this centralized way of coordinating is much better than nothing, but we can do better than that. And the ancient way of coordinating a rowboat without a coxswain is singing a song and rowing to the rhythm. And this way, we can kind of take everybody's voice into account to the extent it's possible. So if people get tired, the song slows down. If people feel strong, it speeds up. And it takes a lot of learning how to do it. But if people master this skill, they will be much better than with the coxswain. And what we're doing in the digital realm when we're transitioning from the client server model, from the centralized Web 2 world to the Web 3, to the decentralized web, is in a way similar. So there are certain things that need to be coordinated, and our first attempts at decentralized storage, which came before the blockchain, things like Gnutella, they don't really work well because the coordination kind of falls apart, like when everybody just wants to row their own way. But with the blockchain, things that require consensus, like if I type a name, I would like the same file come up to everybody. This is provided by the blockchain, specifically by the ENS, the Ethereum Name Service, which was already mentioned here. So the blockchain is kind of a song. It's the way we coordinate our digital actions without actually having some centralized entity playing the coxswain. And what Swarm does is basically the heavy lifting behind the rowing. So the blockchain kind of provides us with this coordination, but somebody still needs to push around the data, to store it, to move it, and that's what Swarm does. And in order to coordinate the resources that are scarce in Swarm, such as bandwidth and storage, we also need a song. And this song is the buzz token. So basically, the first people who get the buzz, they are going to start singing, and as they, distribute, give their or sell their buzz tokens to other people, basically they will make these other people join together, and this song of storing information will become, bigger and louder and more beautiful. So basically, this is the metaphor how I see what we're doing. And so now a little bit, let's delve into the score of this song and see what the buzz token actually is. So let me share the presentation. So buzz token. So again, the first question that usually comes up is, why don't we just use ETH? Like, that's the obvious native token of the Ethereum network. Swarm is tied to Ethereum. It used to be an inseparable part of the Holy Trinity of Ethereum. And this changed a little bit, because first it became a separate subsystem within Ethereum. And then during this graduation process, it grew into this independent project that we are. And because of that, the objectives have a little bit changed. So first of all, now there are more EVM-based blockchains, not just Ethereum. Ethereum itself has hard forked because of the DAO fork, and there's this other heir to the Ethereum heritage, Ethereum Classic, which is kind of the Ethereum orthodoxy after the split, which aims to basically be faithful to what they perceive as the original vision behind Ethereum. Or there's this other project, RSK, which uses Ethereum smart contracting capabilities and attaches them to the Bitcoin blockchain's consensus and all the security that comes with Bitcoin's mining. And of course, both of them, in order to fulfill Ethereum's EVM's promise, would need something like Swarm. And it would be extremely inefficient and plain stupid for all three EVM-based networks, and there may be even others in the future that would want to join Swarm, to have their own swarms. So store the same info, or store largely the same information under the same address, and yet not take advantage of the redundancy, of the efficient allocation of resources between these storing nodes, and so on. So because of this multi-blockchain nature, the native token of one of them, Ethereum, is no longer adequate from that point of view. And also the market price of this token, if it's tied to ETH, then it is subject, in addition to the natural fluctuations that come from, Swarm's own ebb and flow of trading and usage. It also will become subject to fluctuations that have nothing to do with Swarm. So because of that, because of all these things, it has been decided that instead of using ETH, Swarm is going to have its own token, Buzz. So what is it? Most importantly, it is the means of deposit and payment. Let's begin with payment. So there are consumers and there are providers of resources in the network. Some people download files, other people route it to them, yet other people actually store them. And in order to allocate these resources efficiently, in order to encourage economical use, in order to encourage adequate supply, there needs to be some tokenized exchange between the consumers and the providers. And of course, this is very dynamic. We're actually 1 second a consumer, the next second they might become a provider. So this can change quickly within really several times in a second even, who consumes and who provides. But also Swarm, because it provides long-term storage, it deals with promises that I will store this information for a certain period of time. And in order for this promise to be credible, there are some deposits which are subject to slashing in case the promise is broken. So for these two purposes, we use an ERC20 token initially on the Ethereum network, but as I said earlier, our objective is eventually to create a multi-chain token, which is going to be movable between these three EVM-based networks. So basically, you lock up the token on one network, one blockchain, take the proof of it being logged to the other blockchain, and unlock the token on the other blockchain. And so the token can travel between different blockchains and coordinate the efforts of the bees that form the network. So the next question that is very natural to ask is, okay, but how does this token, how does Buzz come into existence? So we are we're conducting an initial sale, which is going to allocate tokens to investors, just like Ethereum was allocated initially. We don't invent anything here. It's very closely based on Ethereum's experience. And later, it will only be issued against hard deposits, against DAI. And finally, I would like to show you the answers that we have to the what if question. So what if the contract gets hacked? What if MakerDAO gets hacked? So we have an emergency shutdown procedure for the bonding curve contract that issues the tokens against hard deposits. But this is not going to be the end of Buzz. It just means that it's no longer issued. It's still available. It will work, like Swarm will continue functioning as before. It will keep using this token. And it only concerns about 3% of the total market value. So I run out of time, unfortunately. But if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A section, and I will do my best to answer them. So thank you very much.
Yes, Dani, thank you so much for your presentation. And you may not realize it, but you made that Telegram group go nuts with this announcement that people actually will be able to own and trade this token. So you better hop over to that Telegram group and to the Orange Lounge to answer all these questions. Later on, we will see Daniel again for the AMA. And I know there are many questions for you. So I hope to see you back at that moment. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Sure.
Now, Daniel, if you can disable your webcam and mute yourself, then we can go to the next thing in our program. I hope you are all still doing well and breathing, because there are many announcements and a lot of interesting content that has been spoken about. The token lives on multiple EVMs, as Daniel was saying. And next up is our guest panel. This panel will be led by Taylor Gehring. Taylor joined the blockchain space in 2012, which is a long time ago, and he worked on several Bitcoin applications, including the Hive wallet. Taylor helped establish the Ethereum Foundation in Switzerland in 2014. And after leaving the foundation, he started the Blockchain Institute, which is one of my favorite nonprofit charities dedicated to educating the public about blockchains and decentralization. I hope you loved the introduction. Taylor, are you there?
I am here, Michel. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. So I look forward to your panel a lot because I you have like amazing people in your panel. So please go ahead and yeah, let's do it.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction. Since we took up so much time talking about myself, I want to go ahead and invite our panelists on. I'm very excited today. We have representation from RSK, IOV Labs, Ethereum Foundation, and I believe a couple of Swarm members are going to join us as well. Let's see, got Joseph, Gabriel, Gregor, Victor.
We're missing Danny.
Danny, and is Terry here?
Indeed, I am.
All right. Great. So just to kind of kick things off and give everybody a little bit of background on who everybody is like representing and what projects they're working on and kind of what they're building towards, I would love it if we could kind of just go around the panel, starting off with Gabriel, just because he's at the top of my list. And after that, Terry, and then Joseph. If you can just talk a little bit about who you are and what you're building and why this relates to Swarm. Like, why are you here today?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much, Taylor, and the whole Swarm team for the invite. It's a pleasure for us at RSK, Reef, and IOV Labs to be part of Swarm and support the team. As Danny explained before, RSK, it's an EVM-compatible virtual machine that secured by Bitcoin, by the Bitcoin network. We've been part of the Bitcoin ecosystem and the crypto and blockchain space for several years, some of us 8, 9, 7 years. And we completely share this vision that Victor and Greg were saying before, and also what Jordi said. You know, we're building a better world, and we can really have an impact. Everything that we built at RSK and Brief, it's purpose-driven. We work very close with the slums in Latin America, trying to build solutions that empower the individuals and create a different internet that is surrounded around protecting the individual. And we understood that Swarm will play a key role in this. As part of the Reef services, we have a payment, we have identity solution, we have a marketplace, and there are two components that are critical in this infrastructure framework that we're building, which are storage and communications. And we're very happy to be integrating Reef communications and Reef storage on top of Swarm. So this is, for us, a full alignment of interest and purpose in life with the technology that we are building, and hopefully making this a reality together with all the team, as Jordi said. So thank you very much for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
And Terry, you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. So I'm with Ethereum Classic Labs, and we have two major activities. One is we operate the ETC Labs Accelerator, where we develop and invest in early stage blockchain projects to help build out the ecosystem. And we also have the ETC Core Team, which is a team of developers who help maintain the Ethereum Classic protocol. Our mission basically is to build high quality technology, look for opportunities to expand adoption of public blockchain, and really help fulfill the social promise of public blockchain. And this is where our collaboration with Swarm is most important. We are absolutely passionate about censorship resistance. I think recent events in the world have shown painfully so that systems can have inherent bias with tragic results. And for blockchain to actually deliver on its promise of financial access and decentralized communities, you need the kind of infrastructure that Swarm is building to make that happen. So we're very excited to be part of this and look forward to seeing it grow.
Awesome. And Joseph, if you would please go.
Hey, everybody. I'm Joseph from the Ethereum Foundation. Greetings from Prague. I work with the research and development teams at the Ethereum Foundation. And as it was mentioned before, the Swarm team recently graduated from the Ethereum Foundation to become like an organization for its own. As it was mentioned before, Swarm was originally part of the Holy Trinity, if you want, as one of the like crucial pieces in building the decentralized infrastructure, and it still remains kind of like an open field for projects to work on the storage space, as is like a very crucial part of building basically like any dApp or like any service that's outside of the current architecture. I'm still super hopeful to see like many solutions that will be like built on top of the the decentralized stack, which I'm hoping Swarm to be part of and to be like a integral piece of the tool set that people be using to build like an awesome decentralized apps without having to rely on the mostly used services of today.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to skip Gregor, Victor, and Daniel for time since you guys have already introduced yourselves, but I hope that you will jump in on a question. Perhaps this one, actually. Joseph kind of alluded to this along with Terry and Gabriel a bit, but I kind of want to put the question up there of why Swarm is needed or potentially is needed in the first place when we've already had multiple attempts at decentralized storage. Whether that's been MaidSafe or Saya storage, IPFS is very much out there and very active. So a little bit like why Swarm, what's different about it, or what from the other projects have not been sufficient enough to continue building atop them? So why another decentralized storage effectively? Anybody want to go for that?
I would like to go for that if there's no other opinion.
Victor, please.
Of course, in one answer, I cannot possibly do justice to all the sister projects and all the, if you want, rival projects. But I mean, we're all in the same boat really here. I cannot do justice to all of them. But let me focus on a few main differences in our strategy and in our architecture. So on the face of it, for the general user who wants to use decentralized storage, some of the higher level solutions might converge and conceal what's underneath there really. But let's focus a little bit, just a little bit more technical than we would want the general user to necessarily know of. In particular, focus on, for example, BitTorrent or IPFS in general. These applications belong to a family of applications which started from that is called like the file sharing paradigm. It means when you open up your hard disk, what you basically do is you register some content living on your hard disk, be it your pirated Star Wars episode or any kind of your own music or meditation videos, whatever, and you share it with the world. In a sense, a DHT, a distributed hash table, which is very similar to the concept of disk that we advertise today, is implemented by B. It's basically serving as creates a situation where this decentralized network of nodes can serve as a content distribution solution for this content that you open up, basically by registering and by routing certain requests on, and also in a clever way partitioning the usually larger data sets to smaller bits so you can parallelize the retrieval. As opposed to this paradigm, Swarm has has an interesting twist to it because it's opinionated about where stuff is stored. So when you open up your hard drive in Swarm, you basically take part in the global hard disk of the Swarm, and data is gonna come to your hard disk, which is basically depending on the address space and on your local node's address. Basically, think of it as if it was geographical addresses, and you store things which are addressed to the same address or close addresses that you are located at. However, this has profound consequences because this means that you can use Swarm without a hard drive, and not necessarily through a gateway, but through a light client, basically upload to Swarm. So Swarm can serve as genuine cloud service, as a network service, and that makes a huge difference. Another very important difference is that we're using the technique called forwarding cademia and backwarding response, which means that if you know how Tor works, it's a little bit similar architecture. So basically, requests and messages pass from node to node, being forwarded till it gets to its destination. And this technique allows at the core of the protocol, allows requesters to become ambiguous and ultimately allowing anonymous uploads and anonymous downloads. So basically it provides a right to a permissionless publication and anonymous browsing if you want. There's a few other differences which come from that, basically relating to how communication protocols can be layered on top of that. I don't want to go into the full story of this, but the main point is that only this year that we realized that communications protocols could be defined on top of these basic storage primitives and result in a very powerful, incentivized, automatically asynchronous communication protocol, which has very, very strong privacy propositions, which is more timely than ever in kind of recent emergence of distrust in some of the real-time communication platforms. So it's basically, there's not basically censorship resistance, so privacy through cloud storage performance, and thirdly, of course, through the incentives, it's like strong guarantees for storage, and of course the possibility of layering a complete communication solution on top of the basic storage. That's only possible in this form, in the Swarm architecture, and not in any other that I know of.
Great. Thank you for that very comprehensive answer, Victor. I wanted to put out to this question in a slightly different form to the other panelists building on top of this, and kind of transition into kind of a larger problem that all blockchain projects are facing. Certainly storage growth in a couple of facets is one area, and that's why decentralized storage can be important. But I'm curious to hear from ETC Labs or RSK or anybody really, if they've tried to build on top of these other storage or archival platforms, and if there's been success or failure in that sense, or is that kind of led you to this point, or have been kind of waiting for this a bit as we've kind of worked through our scaling issues over the past few years?
Yeah, do you want me, Terry, to start? So in our case, we really promote interoperability through the ecosystem as a whole. We believe that interoperability builds anti-fragility. And given that we are trying to change so fundamental rules of the legacy internet that we used to have before, we need to make sure that we are successful as an ecosystem, as a whole. So we are actually, as part of Reef Storage, also integrating other platforms such as IPFS. We will let our users decide which platform they want to use. But especially for the financial inclusion use cases that I was mentioning before, where and bank people will be recording their identity and reputation, we need to make sure that we give them the most powerful anti-censorship or censorship-resistant tools that we have, and we fully agree with Victor's vision that the way that the topology of Swarm is built is probably going to be the most secure solution for decentralized storage in the future. But still, we're going to integrate with other platforms and let the users or data developers using the Reef framework choose the one they desire.
So does it sound like there's a possibility of leveraging multiple storage solutions in the future then? Perhaps Swarm will live alongside IPFS and other things depending on use case?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, please.
So we have been talking to Juan, who is the visionary behind IPFS, that actually there's a lot of room for cooperation in the future, because our projects are in a way quite complementary, because IPFS concerns itself primarily with locating the content wherever it is stored and efficiently delivering it to wherever it is requested. That's what IPFS does. It's very modular, so as long as the stored data has a unique hash, the hashing algorithm is pluggable in IPFS. You can add it. It can be found under an IPFS namespace, and IPFS has a very, very strong peer-to-peer networking protocol, which actually Ethereum as a whole is going to adopt. So that's the Elite P2P library, which is going to be adopted throughout the Ethereum project and many of its sub-projects, including, of course, Swarm. So we see a future where IPFS and Swarm both coexist and cooperate, and the Swarm content will be available through IPFS namespace. And the advantage of that is that it will have the strong censorship resistance capabilities of Swarm. It will have the safety that Swarm provides to storers of information. It will take advantage of the efficient storage space allocation mechanisms behind Swarm, but it will also have the quite sophisticated namespacing and directory capabilities of IPFS. So that's the vision of future cooperation. Of course, both projects were careful and hedging their bets, so none of us wanted to critically depend on the other, because in the early years of development of both projects, there was a non-negligible risk of failure, and it would not have been prudent to not replicate at least some of the other projects' functionality just in case. But I think that if both of our projects succeed, then they will work very well together. I think there's a lot of room for fruitful cooperation and using both projects together.
Wonderful, thank you, Daniel. And what about you, Terry, ETC Labs? I know I've had some discussions with a variety of folks from the Ethereum Classic side, the developers working on that side of things. Kind of how are you looking at Swarm, either similar or different to some of the other things mentioned here?
Yeah, in a similar way, I think, look, the technology, blockchain technology overall is relatively new. And the problem of storage is universal and large. So, you're only going to solve it through cooperation. And so I think for us, Swarm is really important, but other projects, are important too. Our relationship with Swarm is much further along than other storage solutions. But I think actually the ecosystem needs multiple people working on this problem from different angles, not competing necessarily, but like I said, it's large enough that it needs more intellectual focus. I think for Swarm in particular, two things appeal to us. One is, the project has deep community support within the Ethereum world. And for something to really be adopted, it needs that kind of community support. So to us, that was a real important value. The other is the multi-chain support that they're committing to from the outset. So it's not Tridal to begin with and then trying to collaborate afterwards. It's interoperable from the beginning, which I think is an important distinction.
Nice, nice. Well, I have had some more questions, but I'm being messaged that we're running out of time. So in the spirit of cooperation, I want to go ahead and cede another minute or two if we have it, and thank everybody for participating on the panel. Gabriel, Terry, Joseph, Victor, Danny, Gregor, I wish we had more time to chat. I'm really interested in Swarm as a re-entry point for the average person to get into cryptocurrency again. Offering up storage and bandwidth since we can't really use CPU for mining cycles anymore. I really would have liked to have touched on that, but I know if we go for another round, we'll go over and we'll get yelled at anymore. So thank you again for everybody. And in the spirit of cooperation, Michelle, I think it's back over to you.
Taylor, thank you so much for rounding it up so nicely. I would never yell to you, just so you know. I would never do that. Thank you all. I also want to thank the entire panel. You're all a bunch of very inspirational people, and we are all looking forward to hearing more about you guys in maybe next events. So thank you. And please disable your webcam because we have another panel coming up. Thank you, Daniel. We have another panel coming up, this time a very practical thing. I mean, we are now going to dive into actual dApps that are using Swarm as their backbone. Can I say that? Then I would love to invite you and to open up your camera and your audio. Dan, are you with us tonight?
Hi, Michelle. I am.
Yes, live from the UK, somewhere in UK, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love your lighting. It's very party-like. Well done. So Dan, I will hand it over to you because you have 4 amazing projects ready to demo their stuff and to show us what they're doing on Swarm. So please go ahead and show us.
That's exactly right, Michelle. Thanks so much. Yeah, we're going to try and cram in 4 demos. So I'd like to welcome our lovely panel to show their faces if they could. We've got Attila from Farfetch, Kiki with InstaSwarm, and Pierre from Vision. And what these guys are, they represent part of what is a nascent but very strong and enthusiastic ecosystem that lives around Swarm and really kind of believes in the mission. We will save the world. We'll get there. And so, but for the last few years, we've been having the privilege to work with the pre-existing Swarm client and learn how to kind of use that to build decentralized applications that can run in a production level environment. That means scaled, stable, and also using these new paradigms that decentralized development will lend us. And so I'm going to show you a diagram to kind of give some idea of what that means. So what I have here is this is an explanation of centralized versus decentralized apps. So you can see on the left hand side we've got the past situation for Web 2. We've got this like mess of all these different components, all brittle, all kind of like single role, interconnected, many of them in places that make the architecture fractured and brittle and linear, centralized and hence insecure. And this is the kind of like, I put a box around it, like a lot of these things live in AWS and other huge kind of corporations. So you can see that these are insecure, they're centralized, they're prone to censorship and so on. And on the right hand side, we've got the decentralized analog, which is just simply 2 components really. So in the case of a hybridized app, we'll have Swarm and the blockchain, but sometimes maybe we might not even need the blockchain. And in this sense, in this environment. Any of these nodes getting knocked out, another one will simply take its place. So you can see we were dealing with much better, much more robust kind of environment. So to this end, we've been kind of trying to work out how to put these apps together. I've been working on an application called Fairdrop, which I'm going to play you a demo movie of so I can talk over it and save us a bit of time. So this is built entirely using just Swarm and Ethereum EVM-based blockchain backing it. So you can see, the accounts being created. That's using ENS and to handle all the key management and so on. And then we've built an application around it that enables you to store files. These are encrypted. And we've also got prototyped storage incentivization there. And you can then also send files to each other. And you can check this out on Fairdrop XYZ. It's all working. It's been running for over a year now, and we're happy with where it's at. So that's my one. And now I'm going to pass you over to Kiki next to show you another application that she's been working on called InstaSwarm.
Yes, thank you, Dan. So yeah, I'm Kiki, and for a few years with Swarm City, we've been looking into how to create a peer-to-peer commerce platform. And one of the things that was always like difficult is the decentralized storage and messaging. And with Swarm coming along, it feels for us like, okay, now finally we can get this thing going. So so we kickstarted this little project that we call InstaSwarm to see if we got all the building blocks together. And yeah, I'll share my screen with you. And yes, there it is. So what you see here is like, it's a live demo. So normally everything should go well, but it's like always a little bit exciting. So what you see is a feed that's pretty familiar to people, right? You get normal posts, then you get a special kind of post like a fundraiser. The fun thing is like people can just put something on there and say like, if you want to donate something, just go ahead. People can do that. People posting stuff. This is a sponsored ad basically. And the fun thing here is like how we envision it is whoever watches an ad should be rewarded for it. And again, this is fairly easy to do with contracts and stuff like that. So yeah, I watch it, I earn some money for it. Sounds fair, right? People posting things, and then the real peer-to-peer commerce platform, basically starting with someone saying, I want to sell this, who wants to buy it from me? And a little shop spins out of it. So these are like 4 basic sorts of posts that people can just put up. Okay, so now I want to start interacting with the platform. I will need a user account, right? So this is the first step that like actually works with Swarm right now. So yeah, let's create an account. So I'm gonna do it. Okay, so the only thing we use is like a mnemonic to create your key pair. So we think that people should be a little bit re-educated with not saving JSON files or hashes, but just write down these words, keep them somewhere safe, a little bit like in the old days. This is your backup for like later on restoring this or getting access to all your data that will be stored on Swarm. So what I'm gonna do now is a bad example, and I'm gonna quickly copy it. Don't do this at home. So we could go to the next step, and then, yeah, you guys know how this works, right? I have to fill in the words again. Move you guys over here. Where are my little words? Here. So now a little bit of waiting music would be nice. Okay, I got something wrong here. Oh, other words. What am I doing wrong? Word number 9. Okay, possible. And okay, so I've got like we're checking if all the words were correctly written down. So what is happening now is actually that on Swarm, there's a topic created on your feed. So with your private key, we create on Swarm a feed with a topic that's user data, and all these data will be stored there. So I'm going to fill in a name. I'm going to give myself a little avatar. Yes, there I am. Now we have to encrypt our public key, private key on our device with a little password, and it's done. So this was simply the whole user creation phase. And from now on, I can just go into the app and participate. There will be some next steps and that makes it a little bit more interesting. Like we're going to do like trust network where people have to validate each other. Like say, yeah, I like this user, he can come on board. And that way we interchange a little bit of gas for the first time use. So it's going to be a little network where it spreads out and gives more and more users the chance to interact with smart contracts that are on Ethereum. So from now on, we think like we have the two main parts, like all the things with validations, with interacting with contracts, with your wallets that can be on Ethereum, on a blockchain, everything as storage and your user data, all your feeds, everything you do will be stored on Swarm. So now I'm going to show you how easy it is to restore it. So I'll just remove my account. It's gone. I clear my cache. So you're sure I'm not cheating? Yeah, so I say restore account. I just paste. Oh no. I just paste. I just not paste. Well, that's what happens when you do something live and it doesn't work. I'm going to cheat a little now. Huh? I'm going to do it again to show you that it really works because it's important to me. Okay, I made a new account, right? I copied it. Oh, I have to go through all this.
Refresh.
Ale, thanks for your patience here. Yeah, I'm going to show you that my picture will come back. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so I have it again. I encrypted my private key. Yes. Okay, so we've done this before. I remove my account now. Yes, I want to remove it. Gonna clear everything. I'm doing it again. I restore my account. Yes, there you are. Yeah, it worked. So, you know, I'm not lying here. Again, I have to encrypt it because this is just on my device. It's not, it doesn't come from Swarm. Yay, yippee. So yeah, sorry for that like second round there, but I thought it was important to show you that this is actually working with Swarm. It's like fairly easy to create a user and to restore your user. Like from now at this case, it's just like your simple data, but it will be your whole feed, everything you liked, anything will be all in topics on Swarm. And you can just like move it to another account just with like restoring with your seed phrase. That was it for me. Back to you, Dan. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Great, thanks so much, Kiki. And yeah, lovely look and feel. I'm really excited to see that come together. I think there's some exciting prospects with it. And one of the things that probably is worth highlighting is that all the encryption and signing is all still based on like Ethereum compatible elliptic curve key pairs. So actually all this data in all the apps that you're seeing now is completely capable of being opened by the other apps. So we do have interoperability because the user retains control of their data in all cases. So we're going to move on now to Pierre from Vision. And
thank you very much, Dan.
He's going to show us the application that he's had in production for some time now.
Yes, I'm going to share my screen with you. And so I'm Pierre Durand, a co-founder of Vision. I'm a radiologist. Well, the situation that we face is that there are only a very low radiologist number in the world, and most of them in rich country. Patients do not have access to artificial intelligence algorithm, and access to radiology is even hard in developed country. And also the privacy is often not good in available solutions. So we needed to empower the patient, and we also needed a very strong solution. Our mission it was to give access everyone to the best human and artificial intelligence radiological expertise. We had to be trustable, reliable, and fast. So we placed the patient data privacy at the center of our software. And basically, we needed to invent Health 3. So we started to work 1 year and a half ago. So basically, it is Health 3 versus Health version 1. And we had a wonderful team to do that. And then we get a solution, which is privacy by design and trustless system, relying on Swarm and Ethereum. It's safe, it's distributed, and we have interoperability with hospitals' IT environment and reactive user interface to fluidify the process. So I'm going to share the application directly. Sorry for that. Can you see my screen? It's okay? Okay. So basically, to show the process, we have a technologist in the hospital that will receive a patient from the PACS system. Then he can just add the DICOM data from the patient. So then we add the data will be hashed using Swarm, then will be added to the contract. So it's a live demo with the same constraints. We can have sample study request for the specification that we need for the patient. And then we're able to send the patient data to the radiologist. So in another part of the world, we have the radiologist. So it's okay, it's sent. We have the radiologist logging in, and then he will have access to the patient that was just sent. Here, the ability to download the DICOM of the patient. So you can see it's from Swarm and it's fast. And we have huge data transfer like this. Every day I will show some metrics later. Then read on the data of the patient. Sorry for the non-radiologist people, but for example, this was a very strong COVID infection in a patient in Africa. So you can see the ground glass opacities in the lung. Then after reading with the vocal dictation system that I will not show here that's severe COVID, then the radiologist will have the report, make a digital signature on the report, and send it. No. Here you can have the report ready. Then here I'm sorry for that. Up. The technologist can just get. We have also integration with all IT in the hospital, but okay, this is the report I just signed. So to go back to the presentation, there is a big team, and Nicolas, the lead developer, will explain you what's under the hood. Nicolas?
Yes, so can you hear me well?
Wonderful.
Okay, so now you just saw a small demonstration. So yes, let me start my my camera. So basically, we use a stack with a smart contract to handle all the business logic. So all the rights, the roles, different part of the process, using a finite state machine to have a provable system to enforce reliability. And with this, as our data layer, we use the Swarm infrastructure. So with all this stack, we can mimic the kind of stack everyone knows right now with the CRUD interface. And what is really interesting is that because the system works really well, it's quite transparent that we are using a fully decentralized system for most of our users. So now on the next slide, we'll see how the system works. So basically, we created a multi-actor trust universe. You can see that you have a small V engine. We consist of a guest and swarm node. Inside the health center, can be different sides of health center. Then it will be connected to some V engine that some radiologists will use, but between we can add some AI system, can be different parts of the world to pre-process and do a pre-diagnosis on anonymized data. And then we can also have other workflow included, like ordering pizza for radiology during their duty, or completely other process to handle only pure AI system, for example, what we did in the COVID. So basically, with the architecture with the smart contract enable us to connect all different actors which have different systems inside one platform without managing the trust issue we can have on other system. So to give you some small metrics, for each exam that Pierre, for example, download, is there between 10 and 500 megabytes. With that, you have to add some study requests and some reports that are at most few megabytes. But still, there's some very big exams that are coming inside the Swarm network to be hashed and sent to our system. We have notes on the 5 continents. We even made tests with a node on Haiti to send it from Paris to Haiti. So basically, we have an exam that made a round trip around the world. We have full encryption of all the data because they are private data. They are very sensitive data as they have involved health data for patients, which led to a gigabyte of data exchange daily with all our patients. Means that a big load of data for network. And since the very beginning, it was a few tera of data exchange on our own Swarm system. And all this using the release version, so not modifying anything, just having some flag for our network.
So to talk about the achievements, right now we are treating about 1,500 patients every month and more than 6,000 patients to date, most of them in less than 1 hour. We were able to fully give an artificial intelligence plugin tool for COVID diagnosis. We gave it for free in hospitals in France during the COVID crisis. In less than 24 hours, because of the strong team we have, we were able to be fully integrated into the hospital IT environment. And we are also able to plugged closing radiology facility in the east of France. They were closing. We have been saving 7 jobs. It's a big achievement for us. Now we are running nodes and customers on 5 continents. We have been granted by EIT Health grant to because they recognize our expertise in patient privacy management, and within 2 weeks we will also store some genomic data of patients, the DNA, which is a very sensitive information, using our network on Swarm. So to showcase of some pictures with a patient, you saw a COVID patient on the left here. It's a tuberculosis on the 14-year-old patient in Congo. On the right, it's a COVID patient that was diagnosed automatically using artificial intelligence plugin on our system. So we have created a decentralized radiology platform. Blockchain was used to create a positive social and ethical impact for everyone, everywhere, to have a benefit for the people. And we think that healthcare applications can be a flagship of the decentralization ecosystem. And this is why we are building the Health3 platform. And we would like a special thanks to the Swarm and Ethereum teams, because nothing would have been possible without you. Those are our partners. We thank them also. And thank you very much.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Pierre. Really, some really great work there. And it's great to see Swarm working in production, moving terabytes of data, and providing real human impacts, like going back to what Geordie was saying. So that's what we're here for at the end of the day. Now I'd like to move on to Attila. He's got a slightly different take on working with Swarm, whereas all these other applications have been hybrid applications that also involve a blockchain. Attila actually doesn't need it for his applications. He builds with just Swarm. So we're going to see some examples of that. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Attila, and I'm from the Felfele Foundation. And we are building decentralized social applications and protocols. And I would like to talk about 2 projects today. And the first one is called SwapChat, which we built on last year in Madrid with Luis from the Swarm team and then from Fair Data Society. And it's an anonymous, ephemeral, end-to-end encrypted chat application, which is quite a mouthful. So I will show you what it is because it's easier to understand. I will share my screen. So basically, it's a dApp that is running on Swarm, and it's using Swarm. And I will just fire it up. Oops. Wait. All right. So this is how it looks like. It's loading. It's quite slow. But yeah, here it is. So it generated a QR code and the link. And this is, oh, this is a surprise because demo effect. Somehow I just got connected alone, which is surprising. So, so this is Alice. She opens this window. She wants to share something with Bob in private. Oh. And never mind.
I think we might have found a security issue.
Yeah, it seems like someone is joining.
Please stop trolling us.
All right, let me try again. Hey. Okay. So you have to copy the link or scan the QR code and then send it over to Bob, who opens this. And then there will be a connection between the two. Yes, we are connected. Hey, Bob. Hey, Alice. So this is how it works. It's very simple, but it can be used to send over like links or keys between different devices or different people. I use it sometimes to share things on my TV or things like this, but this is not a production-ready application. but it's a very good demo of what you can do with Swarm. And actually it works by using Swarm feeds and Swarm row feeds, which is also called single owner chunks in a way. And I will show diagram how it works. So basically Alice creates two keepers in the beginning, an ephemeral identity for herself and a temporary feed identity, which she sends over to Bob in the link or in the QR code, along with her public key. Then Bob also creates his ephemeral identity, and at that point, Bob can create a shared secret with an elliptic key Diffie-Hellman. And then Bob sends back on this temporary feed, which he has write access, his own public key, and then Alice posts this temporary feed, and then she receives Bob's public key. They both have the shared secret, and then they can set up a private encrypted communication channel, and then they can pull each other's ephemeral identity feed for updates. And so this is like, you know, it's a toy application. We wanted to like make sure that it looks like a toy. It's like using this 8-bit style, which I like very much. But also it turns out that this thing is very useful because you can use this to set up any kind of, like you can use this for basically for public key exchange. And this is a big problem. So the other project we are working on is a social media application, which is called Niche, and it's a mobile application. And we decided to try to build this as much as you can on Swarm and hide as much as details of the blockchain from the users, because that can be really intimidating for like everyday users who are not programmers or developers. You know, these very long numbers are very intimidating sometimes. So we decided to use this key exchange process, which I just described, to basically to bootstrap the network so that you can send over these links or scan the QR codes with phones and send over the links on existing messaging applications and platforms. And with that, you can build your own network. And we are trying to build a different kind of social network because we think that like building Facebook on Swarm would just result Facebook on Swarm, and that may not be the thing that we would like. So we are building a private application where there are no ads, and we anticipate the Swarm platform's payment channels so that users can pay directly for their content, and they can actually, you know, like make sure that your data is stored. And yeah, the good thing is what Dan mentioned before, that like all this data, well, we use also the Ethereum identities that is interoperable with others, and also all this, what I showed you, is open source, and we are building open protocols. So this can be potentially shared with other applications, and the data belongs to the user. And yeah, I think one thing I want to add to this whole presentation is that I think that, so we like Swarm because we feel like that it has the potential to become a full-fledged application platform, not only a storage layer where you store information. So this was my presentation, and back to Dan.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that, Attila. Yeah, I love the niche. It's looking amazing. I think some great ideas. And again, it's like beautiful humanistic altruism born out of Swarm, which is what we like to see. As well as that, Attila's also been working on another project in the last couple of weeks with Lewis from Swarm team, building on top of B. Now, B represents sort of a bit of a shift change in the way that we're approaching things in terms of building on Swarm. If you could turn the screen share off, Attila. I'll briefly show you guys where you can find out more information about this. We're a bit stuffed for time, so I'll be brief. So the Book of Swarm has been recently released, and you can see, go to the table of contents, you'll find section 2, chapter 2, very much around network, and then this is pretty much kind of comprises the disk, so the chunk level distribution of data amongst the network. But if you go down through incentives to chapter 4, you'll find the high level functionality section, and this is where all these higher data constructs and kind of like methodologies that have been thought over the last 5 years and are really distilled down into something that we're looking forward to building. So take a quick look at that. You can see that this, so we go from like chunk level through files, directories, feeds, various different indexing systems and integrity protection, messaging constructs using PSS. So that's the third part of the Trinity, the messaging component, which is something that's relatively new. I'm really looking forward to developing some apps using that. And then also we've got very exciting prospects down here on page 162, if I remember right. This is a diagram showing all the different low-level primitives that are existing in Swarm, which we've really managed to distill into something very kind of like specific and concise. And so the plan is here to implement a DSL, domain-specific language called Buzz, which will vastly improve the possibilities of being able to run code in Swarm with proper integrity protection and give a whole new level of security to the user. So that's just a taster and something that we'll be looking at in the future. So I'll just wrap up now and say thanks so much to our beautiful panelists for showing the demos. If you'd like to get in touch with us and talk about the apps or find out more, please check out the website. You can speak to us on Mattermost anytime you like, and of course read the book. And then finally, just like to reveal that we are in the process of releasing some grants. We're launching those today. So follow normal channels to find out how to apply. But there's 10 grants of max 10K DAI worth of BZZ tokens up for grabs for the best applicants. And so do check that out and get in touch with us. We're excited to see what you guys come up with. With that, no further ado, thanks to everyone, and back to Michel.
Well, Dan, thank you so much. Yeah, those were like awesome demos. Thank you so much for that. You found some brilliant people who are working on really great stuff. Just for the people watching this at home, never share private keys or mnemonics on a video chat, and never share a QR code because you will get man-in-the-middle attacks. However, this is a QR code that we really want to show, which is the invite code for our Telegram group. This is the orange launch because we won't have time to actually answer all the questions in the AMA. And I know a lot of people are asking questions in this group. So also, like everybody who is working on this exciting stuff, please go there and answer these people's questions because they're dying for answers. Also, Dan, thank you so much for announcing these grants. I think it's really interesting that we are doing this in Buzz tokens. So yeah, thank you. And yes, Nicolas, also thank you so much for the demo. We'll see each other at the end of this event. Thank you, and you can please disable your webcam. Next up is what I think, yes, the last speaker of this event. After the speaker, we will have an AMA with the entire team. So keep sending in your questions on Reddit, Telegram, on Twitter. We will just collect them all, and people will be feeding them to me so I can ask these inspiring people these questions. We promised he would be back later in the show. This is the moment. Gregor, are you there?
Yes, I'm back.
Awesome. So Gregor, how are you doing?
Good. I think it's been an amazing event. It's I'm actually really excited and enjoying the whole event. How about you?
I'm doing fine. The sun is setting here in Antwerp, and I like this because as this event comes to an end, the day is also coming to an end here, and I love that it goes hand in hand. I especially loved like Taylor's panel until now. I think that was like really inspirational to see like all these EVM people, how do you say this, like all these EVM projects like coming together, which to me really shows like the power of what we are about to do. But anyway, Gregor, I'm here to host, not to answer your questions. Yeah, go ahead, please give us your amazing last thoughts.
Let's just quickly wrap it up and get ready for the AMA.
Awesome. I'll be back if you call me.
Let's have a brief look. So, like you said, what did we see today? I think it's a very, very exciting event. It's in a way, I think it was pointed out a couple of times, we shouldn't be looking at Swarm as just some kind of a simple product chasing one kind of an end user case. In this regard, maybe one of the takeaways of the event today is that more appropriate it is to look at Swarm as the narrow waist, so-called narrow waist that enables Web3, that enables fair data economy. And if you just think about like all the exciting things today, so thinking of starting the B client. So what just happened today in this regard is the Swarm network was started. There will be only more nodes, only more storage, more data stored, and more dApps to come. We had like really good. I wish it would be longer. The panel with IOV Labs, with ETC Labs, and Ethereum Foundation, and it was great to see the shared values and the ideas of interoperability, how all these things should work together. And we've seen demos, all kinds of different demos that also these applications that are being developed or already being used today for serious use cases, they can also all work together. So in this sense, if we look at Swarm being this enabler, this narrow waist where it can complement other blockchain, it can complement blockchains and other systems in pushing towards the world computer, and on the other side, unlock a rich and diverse ecosystem. I think this is when we are starting to realize that only together we are building something really nice and big, essentially. Now, how this happens, we'll just fly quickly through this. We will elaborate more on it in future blog posts, but there's this little change. So the costs of hosting are basically transferred to the end user, and these are like minimal costs. It doesn't hurt the user, but it does have like a big effect on the developers. So a developer can develop an application, and let's imagine this goes viral and it gets 1 million users. In the traditional paradigm, the thing is that this developer would be kind of stuck because the server costs would become like really high. And this would either force the developer to take some investment, or to think about how to monetize things, or like we saw recently also with Rome Research, a popular project, they just had to lock down the signups because of this problem. And this is where Swarm differs. So if you have a popular content, actually Swarm gets just stronger for you. It becomes like a very powerful CDN delivering content really fast. And all this also has other consequences. We see in Swarm that this data layer actually enables unbundling of the app into the UI and the algorithms and the data layer. And this is enabling a really fertile ground for collaboration. And this is what actually fair data economy is about. It's not a zero-sum game. It's all about collaboration. And it's really filling me with joy to see already this collaboration happening now, and also hopefully today with this event we could bring it closer to you. At this point, we really need to say a big thank you to all who supported us. It's been outlined before that, yes, Swarm was incubated for years within Ethereum Foundation, and this was crucial in for Swarm becoming what it is. But Swarm wouldn't be possible also without partners who believed in us early on. And here, it's really big thank you needs to go to IOV Labs and Ethereum Classic Labs. We've been working together for a while, and it's really also good to see how the principles of Holacracy Swarm are actually happening in real time. So, and the team members, basically, sometimes we don't know where Swarm ends and other projects begin. So how can you be part of Swarm? This is maybe the last thing to address before we move to the AMA. As we pointed out several times today, builders, welcome. So Swarm really enables a lot of, creates a lot of new space for development with low-level API being opened up. It also enables a whole new plethora of protocols, applications, not just end-user dApps. Then if you're working with special projects, such as, for example, how Visium presented the COVID, their activities related to COVID, get in touch with us. We might connect you to the others. It's all about fostering collaboration. Maybe we can throw in a couple of our ideas as well. If you are interested in becoming an early backer, also contact us. So there are several ways how to get involved in Swarm, and we are hoping in the spirit of the openness and collaboration that there will be, so to speak, many new API endpoints, how you can connect to Swarm and how we can work together. And with this, I hope that this event today inspired some more developers to start building software for sovereignty. And we hope we share this journey together. Thank you. And back to you, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Gregor. I can't wait to keep on sharing this journey with you in the coming years, because it's been a fabulous and very, very exciting ride, and to get here where we all are today together.
I also so honored just, you know, being able to work on this, being able to work with such wonderful people. I think also, last but not least, we didn't speak much about this, but I think the Swarm community is a really beautiful space. So thank you all. Yeah.
So Gregor, please stop talking, because I'm gonna get tears in my eyes and I have to still finish this event. So afterwards we'll cry together. I look forward to that. So Gregor, thank you so much. You can stay on because we are moving now to our AMA. So I would like to invite everybody to show their faces with their webcams, but please can you stay muted until I ask you to unmute, because otherwise it's going to be a total chaos. Look at all these people showing up. This is like amazing, right? I can't believe we have so many talented people together here tonight. This is a dream come true, isn't it? So wow, look at that. Okay, so I even see people that weren't like live in the event. I can't like present you all. I'm so sorry. It's just too many people. So let's just start with the first question. If you like to answer the question, just raise your hand, and then we'll make like a little game out of it. Who's Dan? Are you already raising your hand? Oh no, you were just adjusting your hat. Okay. So the first question is, will Swarm be able to handle massive adoption? I think this is like the scaling question, right? I can't imagine why people are afraid of scaling issues here. So what if a new dApp uses Swarm for storage and that millions of users request for data on Swarm? Millions of users. That's like a dream. Will it scale nicely? So who would like to address scaling issues that I don't think we have? Rinke. Yes, Rinke, I give you the word, please. Answer this question.
Well, of course, like otherwise we wouldn't start building it, right? So this is a very simple answer. I think the design of the architecture and how we thought about it to build it, all is built in order to support massive use cases and massive scalability. So it's really deep down into the design of the architecture, the scalability is implemented. So yeah.
So basically a simple yes from Rinke. This is what you will have to be happy with. Thank you, Rinke. Yeah, this is a very interesting question, I think. Does the alpha include the swear and swindle storage guarantees? In other words, like, Daniel already, everybody's just answering the question by shaking their heads, like, no. So maybe I can change the question a little bit to when will we see the actual incentivization in there? Victor. Does this mean? No, Victor, you don't have to answer this if you don't want, of course. Rinke again, or Victor? No, Victor. Sorry, Rinke, Victor.
Go ahead, Rinke.
Victor is handing the words to Rinke. Rinke.
I just put up my head. If I know the answer, you don't always have to give the mic to me. But
I won't, Rinke. I won't.
The bandwidth incentives were already implemented on the Swarm code base, and they are planned in the roadmap to be somewhere in the end of August. So at that moment, you'll be able to try out running the B network with incentives on testnet at that moment.
Thank you so much, Rinke. This question is again about, people are asking all these questions about, it's all money here. This is what people are curious about. What is the estimated cost to store, for example, 1 kilobyte of data, and how does this cost scale with the size of the data? And what is the minimum guaranteed lifetime of my data? So basically it's about how much does it cost to store 1 kilobyte, and what is like the persistence thing that we have going on. I hope I see everybody on the screen, by the way. No, oh my God, there's a second screen with so many people. Okay, Daniel, go ahead.
Well, first of all, the costs are going to be not just by size, but also by time. So if you want to store your kilobyte for 2 years, it's going to be more expensive than having to store it only for 1 year. So that's just a clarification about the dimensionality of this thing. We expect, but it's pure speculation on my part, it's not something that is easy to know in advance, that prices, especially initially, will be probably comparable to commonly used centralized solutions. And the reason that my guess is because people need to coordinate on something, like there needs to be some starting point, and this looks like the obvious starting point. How it's going to evolve over time, it really depends on what value people place on censorship resistance, how fierce the competition is going to be, and so on. So about the evolution of the price, it's again difficult to speculate, but as storage devices become cheaper and cheaper, and hopefully more and more providers join the network, I think that the overall trend is going to be down. It's going to, so the same amount of tokens will buy you more and more storage for more and more time. But finally, and I think this is an important thing to drive home, the cost of storing your information really depends a little bit on the nature of demand for this information. So if what you're storing is something very popular in high demand, it will cost you nothing, because it will be always cached, because the bandwidth incentives will make sure that all Swarm nodes that come across this information will cache it. And even that process of caching will be enough for your information to stay on Swarm. So if you publish something that the whole world is interested in, it will cost you nothing.
That's amazing.
That's one extreme.
That's, I think that's exactly what we're looking for. That's amazing.
Right. So
thank you so much, Danny.
That's on one extreme. On the other extreme is information that nobody cares about. It will still be stored on Swarm. Think, for example, your encrypted backup. Definitely nobody except for you will ever download it, and hopefully you will not download it either because you will never need it.
Yes.
So that's the other extreme. That's the really unpopular information. However, you need really strong guarantees that it's going to be there. So that is going to be the most expensive kind of information to store. So these are the two extremes, and you will find everything in between, I think.
Thank you so much, Daniel. That's a very comprehensive answer. Next one, I'm just gonna assign this one to Jordi because I am the moderator of this thing, so I can be a little bit egoistical. Jordi, the question is, can Swarm benefit from the recent explosion of zero-knowledge tech? And if so, how and when? I know I love hearing you talk about ZK stuff, so go ahead. What can Swarm do for ZK?
Well, as you know, the scaling strategy of ZK rollups has two parts. One is the zero knowledge, which actually you can validate any amount of transactions with a time constant. So you can validate theoretically 1 million transactions in 10 milliseconds, which is very cool. And this is a key piece of the scaling system. But the other part is the data availability. You know, all these, so it doesn't matter if you can process, if you can guarantee that a number of transactions are valid, if these transactions are not available to the people, because there is a very easy attack that's an operator that's just processing all this data, that keeps the data for themselves. So we need a sort of data availability. Right now, there is two kinds of rollups. One is what we call ZK rollup. That's we put this data on chain, so that's okay. Let's put this data in a compressed way on chain. That's what ZK rollup is about. The other is where we put the name of Palladium, Vitalik and all of the people just come out to this name, and this mainly means that you put the data off chain. Where do you put? Right now, the current solutions, they are putting in some kind of federation, you know, nodes somewhere. I'm not sure, you know, I'm not an expert, and this is maybe an answer for you, but a solution of storing this data, this would give the decentralization and at the same time can bring the scalability. Of course, this data needs to be like, it's not compared to maybe a video or to other sort of storage, it's not a huge data, but what's required is that it must be available yes or yes. You know, it says we need this data availability guarantees. So here is, okay, maybe it's I was trying to answer, but maybe it's a question for you. It's like, do you think that Swarm will be ready for handling this kind of information that's highly available, small pieces, but highly available, that you can, you know, you have the guarantee that the data is always going to be available?
Jordi, you can't do this. I mean, we ask you a question and we want you to explain stuff to us, and then you raise more questions. This is highly inappropriate. Still, I'm gonna throw it to Victor because this is actually a question in the AMA. Like, well, yeah, what Jordi said. Victor, can you answer that, please?
Yes, of course. The promise is that it will be able to handle that exactly, because so one thing is that we introduced this tit for tat accounting, that you might call a solution for bandwidth and incentivization, or otherwise like basically a scheme to efficiently pool the bandwidth resources, and that's taking care of like message passing between peers and in a peer-to-peer method. And then we have another incentivization scheme which starts from the idea of in Swarm we really like the word analogies for our kind of incentive structures, and sister to the checkbook which works as a checkbook. We also have the concept of a postage stamp. Postage stamp originally used to be started as a one-off cost attached to a piece of data that you upload to Swarm, and primarily serves to mitigate spam in the network, and thereby expunging basically old content just right away. But also by attaching postage stamps of the different kind of values, we also indicate priority, much like priority mail, just in more granular fashion. And basically, depending on the balance that you associate in this postage stamp or batch of postage stamps related to your chunk, you can calibrate how much the nodes will store it. Basically, you calibrate a positive incentive for farmer nodes to get redistributed some of the in-payments that came in the form of postage stamp. Now let's return to this for a second, but with a slight remark. Of course, there's a stronger guarantee as well, whereby there's going to be insurers or staked storers, special subsystem, special subset of the store nodes, which actually can make stronger and more reliable promises of storing particular information until a particular expiry date by taking a higher premium compared to the simple storage nodes, but at the same time taking more responsibility by basically staking their deposit that is frozen on the contract, and that's what Dan mentioned. So this will eventually be the swear and symbol part of fire insurance, which takes care of the tragedy of commons of only positive rewards. But to return to the previous question, like how ZK methodology can first use by Swarm, there's a very interesting avenue for collaboration there, synergy there, because with the postage stamps, the simplest witness solution for attaching a postage stamp to a chunk actually reveals not necessarily an identity, because it can be pseudo identity, at least it creates linkability of various chunks together, which leaks information about files and uploads. And the ZK type of inclusion proof, I mean, I don't want to go into details necessarily here, but ZK constructs can help increasing the anonymity and privacy features of such storage stamp assignments. So I hope it was not too technical. So basically, ZK Slack can really benefit from postage stamps. And on the other hand, yes, we can in the end, with the normally incentivized tool, we will be able to store all this data and fulfill it and guarantee in various ways their integrity.
Thank you, Victor. It wasn't too technical for me. I don't think this, also our audience, I think, is used to a lot of technical stuff. I am getting a fantasy about listening to you and Jordi at the same time, left and right in my ears, but we don't have time for that. Rinke, a question for you again. I'm so sorry, I don't want to bother you this much this evening, but yeah, this is, I think, the perfect question for you. What was I'll rephrase it a little bit, but what was the hardest part to build, to solve, to implement for you and the dev team? And maybe you want to give the word to someone who really, really worked hard.
Yeah, so I will answer it now, but I will definitely also want to pass the ball to somebody else. But I think if we're talking about Swarm, perhaps the hardest part is the research, which goes into designing the system and designing all the components and actually also the incentives and the token economics and figuring out how you're expecting that users are going to interact with those applications, because it's a decentralized application. It's not something which I run on my laptop and it is kind of known how it's going to behave. No, we are just building a node, and this node is going to interact with other computers which are all around the world, and we cannot make assumptions about how those nodes are going to behave. So this is very difficult, and this is creating an application which is intended to work in a network of other decentralized applications which are just all interacting, and the thinking about this and the reasoning makes it very hard. But actually, I'm not the right person to answer, because the ones I think Janos, he can answer this question.
Please, Janos.
Yeah. So it's easy when you know how and what you are building. I can tell, for example, that we iterated a lot on syncing protocols, and actually we discovered that we have to have two of them, and so regarding stuff that is released in B currently, I would say that we spent a significant amount of time iterating how our syncing protocols would behave in order to achieve balanced replication and efficient distribution of chunks within their neighborhood. But in general, I also agree with Rinke about the complexity of incentivization. So this is a huge area of protocols, and well, our knowledge is still at the phase that we have to iterate on more, but much better situation than before. And also addressing the complexity. We have a lot of protocols, and a lot of protocols will be added. So a lot of time was invested in deciding what, how to modularize and address maintainability of a complex system like this.
Awesome, thank you, Janos. The next question might have a very quite a simple answer. I did not see any gas transactions. Swarm is still free and does not require any Ether. Is that correct? Someone's asking. Come on, guys. Who wants to answer this one? No? Rinke, not again. You're like this kid I had in high school in my classroom was always like, yeah, I know the answer. I know the answer. Nobody? Oh my God.
Danny.
Danny. I'm sorry. There are too many people on my screen. My screen is, I should buy a bigger screen like Jordi said. So Daniel.
So we would like to make it as transparent as possible. So you're not going to need Ether in order to join the network, but you will need to provide service on an altruistic fashion. So the first few things, so if you enter without Ether, you will need to do the first few steps. And then with the first payment, you're also going to receive sufficient Ether for gas. So basically, from a user experience and onboarding perspective, the answer is that we managed to engineer the initial Ether out of it. So you can enter the system without getting Ether from elsewhere. But of course, since this is on Ethereum, at least the part that's on Ethereum, it will require ETH to pay for gas, but you will be able to earn that Ether early on when you join the network. Of course, for Ether, you can always substitute the native token of whatever other EVM-based blockchain we're talking about. So on the RSK network, it's going to be RBTC. On Ethereum Classic, it will be ETC. But the native token is unavoidable on EVM-based blockchains, but we managed to solve the onboarding problem.
That's awesome. I loved how you engineered Ether out of Swarm. And next question is maybe, and I really want to ask this question to Gregor. Gregor, can you talk a bit about the Fair Data Society and the Fair Data principles that are like almost like inherent, I would say, to Swarm? This is like one of the last questions we can do, Gregor.
I can answer it if you will help me.
I will definitely help you if you want
Okay.
to. Yes. What do you want me to do?
Well, you're from Fair Data Society, so
yes, I am.
Well, it's kind of the initiative of Fair Data Society is kind of like a complementary. It's kind of continuous with Swarm in a way, and it's like connecting the social with the tech. So if we speak before about the narrow waste and Swarm enabling this ecosystem, Swarm is neutral. It's all about neutrality. But when we as developers, if we think about what kind of applications we are going to build that touch upon the human, we also need to start to think about things like ethics and how to proceed. And Fair Data Society addresses this. At the same time, Fair Data Society as an ecosystem initiative wants to basically just be proactive with also helping developers with libraries, best practices, etc. What would you add?
I would add that it is goddamn time people make money on their own data instead of all these giant corporations doing so and then trading our data for money on Wall Street. I think these days should be over pretty soon. So that would be my answer to that. Yeah. Anyway. So maybe the last question, unless someone tells me we can keep going. But the last question would be, how does Swarm compare with Filecoin, IPS, MadeSafe, Storage, all these other projects who are doing decentralized storage with sort of an incentivization layer? Who wants to take this on? I hope I'm not missing. Yes, Gregor again, maybe. No? Yeah.
So I don't want to actually answer it, but Gabriel seems a bit shy, And
yes, I know, right? I was just looking. I had the exact same feeling. Gabriel, can you just speak about anything? Because I love to hear you talk.
Me?
Yes, I know this is probably the worst introduction ever that I just did.
No, as I said before, we believe in building a user-centric internet, and we believe that users should have the right to choose, right? I think what we're trying to do here is creating the storage layers interoperable among them and the blockchain layers as well. And hopefully together, we're also going to be able to bring the communities together. And this is something that we at RSK have been pushing forward for many years now. And I'm super excited about this collaboration with the Swarm team because it's a clear example on how when we have a goal in mind, and I mean, the technology that we are using, I mean, it's useless if it doesn't have a purpose, as Jordi said before. So I think what unites all of us here in the panel and the audience is this goal in mind that we are crazy enough to believe that a better world is possible, and definitely a censorship resistance and the possibility of store our personal data and take care of it and not become a product anymore to be sold in the markets. It's critical for this better world that we hope, but it won't happen by itself. Actually, maybe if we don't do something very strong and very quickly, the world is going to go to a worse situation than it was before. And we've seen this as part of COVID and just not only corporations profiting out of the users, but also governments surveilling ourselves and just going, no one is going to stop them unless we as a global community, as a global network of individuals around the world, just tell them this is enough and that we want to build a different world. So I think this collaboration and this amazing group of people here are just an example of that a better future is possible.
Gabriel, you never disappoint. Thank you so much for that answer. I think we all get even more inspired for working towards this shared goal we have. If any, I know we all have so many things to say, and we have to round it up somewhere. I believe this is a beautiful moment to end the show. Dan, you agree? I see. Gabriel, thank you so much for these words. Jordi as well. It was, so inspiring to hear you, as always. Everybody, by the way. So yeah, still, again, it's just some housekeeping. Please join our Telegram group so we can continue this conversation. Please keep asking all your questions on Reddit, Twitter, etc. You will find this thing on YouTube. Maybe you're watching this on YouTube right now, or maybe you will be watching this in 10 years from now, and then you are wondering what YouTube is. Well, YouTube was a very centralized video storage kind of thing before we had Swarm running the internet. With that, I say goodbye to you all from Antwerp. I loved this show, this event, and I hope we get to do this again in the future. Thank you so much, everybody, and see you soon.
Yes.